Let's talk to, from the Republican Overseas Organisation here in London, Erol Morkoc. Hi, Erol.
Hi there. Thank you for having me.
Always a pleasure. Are you in London?
Not yet. Thanksgiving is on Thursday.
Are you still in Davis? Are you in Davis?
No, I'm nearby Davis at my uncle's place. Thanksgiving is Thursday, then I'll return.
Of course. You've got to stay there for Thanksgiving. Fair enough. Now, let's talk about the Chagos Islands. Now, even Joe Biden didn't want Britain to do what it's been doing. We've been busy negotiating away our lease on the Chagos Islands. We've sought to retain our lease on the main island that has our air base on it that we share with America. So we're going to keep that, but we're negotiating away the rest of the Chagos Islands to give them to nearby Mauritius. For no apparent reason. Mauritius has never had governance over these islands, but we decided it should because it's geographically close. Now, Joe Biden didn't want us to do this. Donald Trump wants us to do it even less. And yet, apparently, we've had an official, an old Labour veteran called Jonathan Powell. He's an old relic from the Blair years. He's a Blairite. He's there apparently trying to sort of cross the T's and dot the I's on this deal to give away the Chagos Islands to Mauritius and to get that deal done before Donald Trump comes into power on January the 20th. Why would we be doing that, do you think, Erol? Because, why would you go out of your way to ignore the wishes of the new president and to annoy the president-elect? Why would you do that, do you think?
Well, let's see. From the perspective of the British perspective, it's hard for me to quite grasp the logic of the timing. But let me at least give you the American perspective here. I mean, from our side, we have to remember it was in 2022 that James Cleverly, the conservative foreign secretary, was the one who started this movement towards the Chagos Islands being repatriated. And, I think that we have a situation in America where we see this probably going like Guantanamo Bay in Cuba, where we have the 99-year lease along with the UK on Diego Garcia, which is the main island, strategic value of the archipelago. On top of it, the native-born population isn't like in Gibraltar or in the Falkland Islands, which is British. It's generally, not British. And having spent a decent amount of time in Mauritius, good luck having those guys run your country for you. I'm not sure what the uplift is there for them. But from a geopolitical strategy point, I would caution that the UK isn't completely harming the relationship with us. While President Trump doesn't like anybody giving up any territories, and he's definitely an Anglophile, he also is primarily interested in the 99-year lease. And much like in Guantanamo Bay, the lease has to have both parties agree to break it. So now it comes, I think, down to two debates. One side is a debate of British sovereignty and the pride and the dignity that your country needs to have and maintain. And the other side, it's us perhaps not quite understanding the entire archipelago in that area. But as long as we get the military base, you're not going to have the pushback from Donald Trump that you would have otherwise. And also it is fair to say that there have been both parties in the UK that kind of pushed this as kind of a minor thing. And now it's being kind of brought into the fold right now. And I think it's not helpful for the special relationship because as far as America is concerned, if we have the military base, we're okay. But from your perspective and the British citizenry and all of that, I totally concur. Not only is it bad diplomacy with President Trump, who's not going to like it, but it's also bad, I think, just for the national identity of the UK. There's no reason to be doing this, especially right now. Give it another year, perhaps, but that would be my bipartisan take on a topic I do agree with you with, though.
Yeah, I know why they're doing it, because they're socialists and they believe in sort of lack of international borders and, territory must be given back to, the resident natives and all that, the Aborigines of that island. Well, the poor Chagos Islanders were kicked off in the 1960s, I think it is. We still have a community of them down near Gatwick Airport who still want their country back. They were the ones from Diego Garcia. This is trying to give the Chagos Islands back to Mauritius when they never had them in the first place. Also, Erol, what about this? Trump has let it be known that he's very fed up about Britain's response to the International Criminal Court's arrest warrant for Benjamin Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, for war crimes. Now, even Joe Biden said that was outrageous. Good for Joe for once. We, of course, announced that we completely support this arrest warrant and that we respect the independence of the ICC. The independence of the ICC is a very dubious issue, to say the least. It's like that with the United Nations. The United Nations passes motions of condemnation about Israel as a hobby 2 or 3 times a week. This is an anti-Israel measure that Donald Trump said, I don't think we should be approving of this. Joe Biden says we're approving of it, and it has been indicated to Britain by America that unless we adjust this stand, this will be one more nail in the coffin of our friendship with America. What I'm saying to you here, Errol, is I think too many people in the Labour government are over-interpreting Donald Trump's love for Britain. He does love Britain. His mum was Scottish. But you can push things too far, and I would suggest Britain is pushing it too far.
I would agree, especially in regard to what you've said about Netanyahu and the insanity that the ICC would try to drag this man in front of there for war crimes. That is what's going to cause the UK to be in the back seat in Donald Trump's administration. Israel is our greatest ally. The amount of trauma and pain that this country has had to go through to forge its identity and be born from the ashes to get where it is today, something that every American, has a natural connection to, a country that we've supported financially, militarily, and emotionally. And the idea that in the midst of all of the chaos, the horrors of what happened on October 7, that the Labour government in the UK would support this scurrilous, false accusations of war crimes against somebody like Netanyahu, somebody who fought for his own national sovereignty, is exactly what's going to lose all goodwill they would have had with Donald Trump. Donald Trump is a great friend to Israel. I'm a great friend to Israel. I'm a Turkish American who is a great friend to Israel because I understand the camaraderie and joint benefit of our countries working together. And so nothing that we would want to do to diminish that, especially in this moment of strife, in a moment where the Israeli people don't have a lot of friends outside of the United States. We want to make sure we stand up, and we also stand up for the Jews in the UK. And we say, no, this government, if they're representing you, we stand with Israel. And if you want to stand with the United States, you definitely need to stand with Israel right now, because that's where we're going, and that's the direction Donald Trump's going to be taking it. And to a direction of peace, I want to add. We're going to end this war, and peace will be on
Well said, Errol. Well said. Great to have you on board. Erol Morkoc from the Republican Overseas. Next up, the Royals with Kinsey.